Around the dinner table with friends and family, there are some topics which are naturally shied away from: politics, religion, favorite sports teams. But those in the law enforcement profession, we will oftentimes find ourselves in the sticky situation of talking with loved ones who may have a much different take on our profession. And thank you all for joining us for our first episode of Season 2 of Lifeline 911 Podcast. We are excited to be here with you again and hope that you all had a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and wonderful holidays, and a good New Year.
Yes. Yes.
So, Erica, I think we all have family members that might have a less than positive kind of perception of law
Yeah.
enforcement a lot of times. I know, and friends as well. I know that I do in some aspects.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a difficult place to be because you're kind of like, you obviously love these people that you're with, but they might have like really negative impressions about, things that are kind of going on. How do you kind of like deal with that?
For a long time, well, when I first started this, I would just jump right in,
Hmm.
right? Defend, defend, defend. Even though I didn't know quite how to do it,
Okay.
I would just say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. It's not like that, and it's harder than it looks, and da 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 da, which landed me in a few heated discussions
Naturally.
that did not go well at all. Let's just say. And through time, or the course of years of doing this, I've learned that it's almost their right to feel the way that they feel about their police department. Because as I've matured in my profession and in age and just in life in general, it occurred to me this is actually their police department. We are public servants. And so they have a right to, no matter how ill informed they may be, that is their right to feel however it is that they feel. And I shouldn't take it personal. But that's easier said than done because this, again, is our profession. We know things they don't know. But then there's the line.
Hmm.
How far do you go in your explanations? Or how far do you go in your defense, if you will?
Right. Because you don't want to necessarily start an like argument with people, as that doesn't really help anybody out. But
Hmm.
you also want to make sure that like they're understanding the topic better than maybe a skewed perception is of it is. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard to kind of bite your tongue when you're like, oh, you're really going off the wrong path here. There's
Yeah.
a lot of moving pieces here you're not seeing about why it took a cop an hour and a half to get to your fender bender that you had at the
Yeah.
Walgreens.
Yeah. And those I find are the easier ones. I can say, well, look at it this way. There's only so many police officers on duty. I don't care how well staffed the agency is, no matter where it is. There's still only so many, and we have to prioritize the things that are coming into us. What I tend to do is I will ask the question. So I'm just going to throw the question out there. Tell me what you think. Fender bender, you just got ran over by a car.
Hmm.
Which one do I choose? And they go, well, duh, the person who just got run over by the car. But hold on. The person over here that had the fender bender doesn't know that. And they don't care. If they knew, that probably would be a different way for them. They may respond differently if they knew, but how much am I able to tell them?
Right. Uh,
But so, and I know that may be a simple oversimplification, but that's just one of the ways I try to explain to the friends and family. Look, there really is a method to our madness.
mhm.
We're not just sitting around, waiting for something to happen and then just deciding whether or not we want to go based on some weird set of criteria. There really is a prioritization for a reason, and that's why we do the things we do.
Yeah,
Now, how it's received,
that that your mileage may vary,
yes,
but
that's a
yeah,
good one. I like that.
the the I guess sort of the discussion about like available the resources available for departments are usually the easier discussions to have because you can very easily point out, hey, there's X number of officers per 10,000 people in this town. Of course,
Hmm.
they're not going to be able to get around to everybody immediately, and then all the sort of obstacles that come in the way of getting an officer to the person in need. Availability, like what other calls are they working, where are they stretched thin at,
Hmm.
and those are easier arguments to make because they're more based on sort of logic rather than like the
Yeah.
harder arguments to kind of defend against sort of the pathos one, like cops are bad, cops are pigs, those kind of things. It's like where people have sort of the idea that cops intentionally are bad. And of course, there are bad apples. But I think, as you said before, one bad apple spoils the bunch. So,
Yeah.
how do you kind of, or do you even try and make like an argument with that when somebody's just like very anti-police?
I don't.
Hmm.
I don't. Depending on where they are, and if it is obvious to me that nothing I say is going to penetrate that, I don't touch it, whether it
Hmm.
be friend or family. Now, I'm fortunate through the years, I don't have very many of those people in my orbit anymore because, for one, I tried to disassociate myself from people who were truly anti-police
Hmm.
because then that means they're most likely anti-law and anti a bunch of other stuff that might land me in on the other side of the episode that we did that says you're always on duty. That one.
Right.
So I try to I try to distance myself, and I don't have very many people, but when I do encounter someone like that, I just let them go. And I don't even try because it's going to almost always end up in an argument. I'm going to say something, they're going to say something, and we're still not, we won't have gotten anywhere. We won't have gained an inch.
Hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like we've been fortunate in this show to have had the opportunity to have not only an actual like police officer on with us, but very many people that have either worked directly in like emergency communications or tangentially
Mhm.
with like Versaterm or like other training like American Emergency Preparedness to kind of
Yeah.
give their perspective. So like I hope that the people that may have really sort of those negative views could see all the people that are in these orbits that are doing this job and trying their best to keep them safe, and maybe that will help color the idea of like all cops are bad in maybe a little bit different light because they can see all these other people that are either directly or indirectly supporting law enforcement and be like, you know what, those
Yeah.
people aren't bad, so maybe it's not all the cops out there.
And you're 100% right. As we do this podcast, and we have people on that do things other than just the immediate job of taking calls and dispatching and working in an actual comm center. It just blows my mind how big this industry is
Mm-hmm.
and how many people it takes to make it all happen. And I try to explain that and let my friends and family in where I'm able to and where it makes sense. Because most people don't think about the fact that there's a whole there are whole companies designed to help enhance our training
Yeah.
so that we don't make the mistakes that we hear about on the news, because those are the calls that we hear about. We don't hear about us saving lives every day. That's not stuff you hear about, which I'm slightly offended by that
Well, it's
now that
like
I think about it.
yeah, it's like everybody wants a cop immediately when they want a cop, no matter how minor
Yeah.
their thing is. But they never want a cop when they don't want a cop. So if they're speeding down the road, going 10 over, they definitely don't want a cop around there at that point. So, you
Well,
know,
there's got to be something else that he or she should have been doing that's way more important than hindering me from getting to where I need to be. And I've heard that argument before. Where are they when you need them? Well, somewhere else that they're needed.
yeah, but like the thing is, and it's impossible to sort of prove a hypothetical, but what if that cop pulling you over that was doing when you were doing 10 miles an hour over the speed limit stopped you from running a kid over 2 minutes later? So
It's
it,
very true.
yeah, it's really hard to kind of say these are the positives from police work a lot of times because we don't know what negatives could have been or would have been had they not been there.
Which I think is a wonderful, and I didn't even know you were going to do that, which I think is amazing. This brings us to the topic that kind of birthed this particular episode. The most recent thing that we've been watching on the news, which that horrible event in New Orleans, and watching all of the news shows on that, and you're listening to the reporters, and they're all saying pretty much the same thing. Well, why didn't they anticipate this?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they have, this barrier or that barrier or the police car parked here? And why don't they have more of a presence after something like that happens? And the truth is, there's no way to know. There's no way to know what someone's going to do. And you can put, and this is what I say to my family, there's absolutely no way to know who's going to be the bad actor and what bad act they're going to do. And I would say as a police agency, you can put up barriers here, 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 and here. They're just going to go around those barriers.
Yeah.
They're going to find another way to do the thing they were going to do. If that one doesn't work, they'll do something else. And how is it reasonable to expect any agency, I don't care where they are and how many police or resources they have, how is it reasonable to expect that they will be able to anticipate every single thing?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Yeah.
I ask that question sometimes to family, and they don't have an answer for it.
Right. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, there are steps you can take to help mitigate danger and issues that are happening, but unless people are willing to be locked in a padded cell all day and only eat oatmeal, there's always going to be danger and risk in life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it, it's not really worth it to live if you don't take risk. At least I don't think so.
Agreed.
And
Well,
you know,
and like we were talking about it. So if any agency put up all of these quote unquote barriers, with the idea and the purpose of keeping us safe from anything and everything, where then is our freedom?
hmm
Our freedom, like you said, to make mistakes, to go out to, let's just use our little New Orleans, I like to call it in a way, our little Bourbon Street, which is 6th Street. If we
it's an
barricaded
insult to Bourbon Street.
everything, huh?
That's an insult to Bourbon Street.
Well, I'm just, you know what I'm saying. As far as the people and
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, not the same. But if we barricaded everything, and if we protected the people so intently, or held on so tight to the reins of their quote unquote safety, that they were not free to have a good time on 6th Street, and you know I don't know about getting like sloppy drunk, but you know what I'm saying. Enjoy,
Yeah.
and enjoy their Poor
Yeah.
Choices, which is a
Yeah.
name of a bar, which I
Yeah.
absolutely love the name of that bar. I'm off topic, but I love the name Poor Choices. It's like poor, like you're pouring a drink and then
Mhm.
your choices. It's just awesome. But anyway, but what if we held on so tight as a police department that we had overkill in officers down there? We have what we
Mhm.
believe is enough to keep the peace, to help maintain some safety, have a presence, but not stifle the people.
Mhm.
So that's a balance. I would imagine that's a hard balance to strike, and I would not want to be the person responsible for trying to figure out what that balance is.
Right, because even beyond just the financial aspects of trying to, like, if you were downtown and half the people were cops, that'd be very expensive. But
Indeed.
More importantly
Yeah.
than that is, how do you, as you said, find that balance between liberty on the one hand and freedom on the other. And,
Hmm.
because people, yearn, I think, to be free and, have choices and, as Miss Frizzle said, take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. Um,
Yes.
but that's a Magic School Bus reference for the younger ones. Um,
Yes.
but like if you, are so locked down that you don't have that, and there's tons of movies where there's police states and CCC cameras or CCTV cameras everywhere, and like um, Tom Cruise is going to arrest you for a crime you haven't done yet. Um,
Wow.
but like, where is the it's a tough balance to make, and kind of
Hmm.
trying to go back on topic a little bit, I guess. When you're talking about what the police have like done, and whether they're when you're talking with friends and relatives that are upset with the police, like how do you kind of help people understand that? Because for everyone that's not in a law enforcement profession, these things aren't even thought about. It's like
No.
you never think about your plumber until you have a backup or a leak or something, right? And
Yeah.
same thing with the people that fix the roads. You never think about street and bridge until you hit a pothole. So
Absolutely.
when things are yeah, yeah. So
Unless you work with them in the way that we do.
yeah, when things are working right, you don't think about it. So how
No.
do you kind of have people take a moment to appreciate, like, you know, I didn't get mugged today. Thank you, police officers. Something like
Nope.
that.
Not going to happen.
No.
Nope. Not going to happen. Never going to happen. At least I don't think so. I think that there will always be those people that appreciate what we do, and that do think about, oh, you know what? They keep us safe day in and day out.
Hmm.
But it's just not something that people think about, which I don't think is necessarily bad.
Right.
Because if we're doing our job and if we are succeeding in our goal, then why should they think about us? They shouldn't.
Yeah. That would be ideal for them to not have to worry about that, and so they can
Yep.
go live their lives and do what they want to
And
do
do the
without.
thing. Yes.
Yeah. So no,
But I'm,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, how do you get people to kind of take a moment to get outside of themselves and make them realize, like, oh, yeah, things are working pretty well since I haven't had any problems today.
Well, and I think that's where we come in with our friends and our family in the way that we defend
Hmm.
rather than, and I think this would be great for like the newest of the new to the profession. There's nothing wrong with having pride in your work and taking pride in being a public servant. Absolutely. Wear it proudly, but know that the way that you defend can hurt also. You should have that pride and you should do all of the things, but don't defend to the point of turning them off. You can make their negative view of us worse depending on how you respond.
Hmm.
Sometimes it might mean just being quiet and let them have it. Let them go off until they just are done.
Yeah.
And if they look over and say, what do you have to say for your department? That's where you choose to answer them intelligently, but also maintaining the confidentiality that you know you have to, right? You can't give away the store
Hmm.
in your explanations, but you can open their eyes. And once you have an opportunity to get them to really see, they'll tell someone else. And so they'll be in the presence of someone else that's going off and da 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 about things they have no idea about. And they can say, well,
Hmm.
my sister, brother, cousin, uncle, bestie, whatever works for 911, and they told me yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. 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 And
And then there's shows like this.
yeah, I think it is by mainly small and simple things that you can change people's minds. Because if someone comes at you and they're like, dead set against an idea, you're probably not going to be able to make them do a 180. But if you're open and honest and respectful towards them, and you bring up your points and talk about them, you know, it might change it a little bit. And then the next time you see
Yeah.
them, change it a little bit more.
Yeah.
because it's tough to give up your perceptions of the world and to change that.
I agree.
So,
I
uh,
agree.
yeah, it has to be done incrementally, I would say. But just
Yeah.
be very honest, because there's a lot of things that suck about working in law enforcement. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And
Nope, not at
um,
all.
there's a lot of there's a lot of bad things that happen, and a lot of good people are working to help stop that. So I think that's sort of where to come from, because as we always say, like, nobody calls 911 when they're having a good day. Nobody wants to meet
Absolutely.
a
It's pretty
police
rare.
officer, EMS, or firefighter on a good day of their life.
Yeah, it's very true. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And coming from a place of service is important too.
Hmm.
And just when you find yourself in those environments, or whether they be friends, family, cocktail parties, whatever, when the stuff comes up, just remember that there's a reason why we are called public servants. And as such, sometimes it's okay for us to just sit back and allow the public that we serve to have their opinion.
Hmm.
But if we're going to engage, it has to be in wisdom and it has to be intelligent, our response, if we hope to change any minds whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree, and like it's tough because I'm a big movie buff, as you know. Uh,
Really?
yeah, yeah.
You
So
don't say.
yeah, I know you look in like
Yeah.
the 1960s, and you see like police depicted as like the Jack Webb style, like Detective Friday, or
Yeah.
One Adam 12, or
Yep.
Adam 12. And then you go into like the 70s, and then you've got really a change in like the demeanor of police, where it's like Serpico, the police are the bad guys. And then you go into the
Hmm.
80s, and it's like action. It's like John McClane, um, you know, and then like it's so like you kind of get a thermometer of how the public feels in that way, I guess. So like the most recent like big police movie I can think of is End of Watch, that came out like 10 years ago.
I don't remember that.
No, it was a good movie. And it's about like two cops in L.A. PD. The most hated cops in the free world, is was once said.
Okay. Wow.
But it depicts them in a positive light. So just it's by these small and constant conversations that you have with people, because there's so many of us. As you said, there's hundreds of thousands of emergency communicators in the country, and you add
Yeah.
in like the police, the fire, EMS, all of that. You're talking about millions of people. So think about how many interactions all those millions of people could have, and how that can change the mentality of people.
Absolutely. And I'll say it again. We are servants, and it's okay to allow the public that we serve to have their opinion. And actually, now that I'm saying this, think about how many different movies and TV shows that are out there, because we did an episode about how Hollywood gets it right or wrong,
Hmm.
and that's just another I don't know, avenue is the right word that I'm looking for, but that's just another source of information that they get, and that information is not always realistic.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
It's
thank you, Hollywood, for all that you do for us, because you make us look good pretty some days, some days. But then
yes.
that television and that need to create, the action and the desire for people to want to watch again and tune in, that feeds into people's perception of what it is that we do and how things should happen and how quickly we should respond and what it should look like when we do respond.
Hmm.
So that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Then we
Yeah.
can help maybe to bring some reality to some of that.
Hmm. Yeah, because just next time someone's like, "Oh, it takes forever for the cops to respond when I have a crash," just tell them like, "Okay, go 6 miles away at rush hour and then try and get here. Tell me how long it takes you.
And a lot of people don't realize that the lights and sirens that we use don't necessarily mean that we're going to get there that much faster. Yes, it will shave off some minutes, but it's not going to take a 20-minute trip and cut it into 10.
No. I mean, because, even if they're driving 90 miles an hour, you might cut on a 10-minute trip, you might cut off 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds can be big because that could stop a gunman from killing 8 more people. But,
this is true.
It's not going to radically transform. And then most of the calls that police respond to are not lights and sirens. It's, the calls that don't need a emergency response, that might need an urgent response where they want to get there quickly, but it's not, hey, let me move all the traffic out of the way to get there. And then they're just a normal car.
Yep, they have to, and while we know that there are always people who don't do exactly what they should do when they should do it and follow all the rules and SOPs the way that they should, and police are not different because they are human, they still have to abide by the same traffic laws when they're not doing an urgent response.
Right.
Which means when the light turns red, wait for it, they have to stop and wait their turn. Yeah. When it turns green, there's no hovering, there's no going around, there's no teleportation. And I have been guilty of being sarcastic and telling a friend and family that before. We don't teleport. That transporter thing that you see on
Star Trek
and Deep Space Nine, that's fiction, right? We don't use that. I wish we did, because I'd never be late to work or be in a rush ever if we did that. So somehow it doesn't always go over as being the funniest thing they've ever heard. But hey, I'm human. I have been guilty of a sarcastic comment before.
Yeah, and that kind of that kind of goes back to,
is it worth it for you?
That kind of goes back to being open and honest and joyful with these people that you might be having disagreements with, because they don't know what necessarily it's like. And if you find that that's the case, a lot of departments you can do either a ride along with the police officers, or you could even go see the the communications center. The
911 center. It's actually your center. If you think about it, that's a taxpayer.
Yeah, you bought it, you paid for it.
Yep, every day. So, and most people don't know that. When we do our community outreach and I share that with them, their eyes get so big. They're like, "You're kidding. I can do that?" Yes, you can. Matter of fact, please do. That way, when you find yourself in those situations and you hear, other people talking about it, and they're coming from a place, and you said it beautifully before the show, they're coming from a place of ignorance, and that's not a negative. That is, they don't know. And they don't even know what they don't know.
Right. The unknown unknowns, as they say. Yeah.
And that's where we come in to maybe help educate. And I think I said all of that to say it's important how we respond. It's okay to defend, but I think do it in wisdom, do it intelligently.
Yeah. And do it in love.
Yeah, and then recognize that it might be the best thing to do is just let them have their opinion and pick another day and time if you're going to address it. Sometimes just let it go.
Yes. Well, I think we're out of time for today, but we appreciate you guys joining and watching the show, and we're excited for 2025. I can't believe it's already here. As always, if you'd like to reach out to us, please feel free to drop us a line at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. From all of us at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary.
I'm Erica.
And we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911 Podcast, copyright 2025. From all of us at Lifeline, stay safe out there. And until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.